This is the essential story you need before jumping into Little Nightmares 3. Obviously, there's more to the story than what's contained in this video, but this is a solid starting point if you care about the lore. Here's what you need to know. The story is told out of order across different games. There are also comics that, as far as I understand, are not considered official canon, but maybe they are. If I'm wrong, someone please correct me. The timeline actually starts with the mobile game Very Little Nightmares, then jumps into Little Nightmares 2, and wraps up with Little Nightmares 1 plus the DLC, which covers the side story. Without any further ado, this is the essential story of Little Nightmares. Very Little Nightmares is the first game chronologically. The protagonist is only referred to as the girl in the yellow raincoat, so I'll just be calling her Raincoat. Very Little Nightmares begins with Raincoat having a dream of her locking herself in a shed. While she attempts to lock herself in, something is banging at the door. As Raincoat startles awake, we find her in a hot air balloon that has crash landed into the attic of a tall, narrow mansion called The Nest. The Nest is located on a rocky island with sheer cliffs on all sides. We will soon find out that several monstrous residents live inside. As Raincoat leaves the attic, she sees a girl in white called Six, who immediately runs away. Raincoat keeps going and comes to a room with many cages. Inside one cage is a child with a red scarf. She rescues the child, who then runs into the next room. By the time Raincoat enters the room, the hat and scarf that the child were wearing are laying on the floor. This poor child is nowhere to be found. Continuing on through the mansion, Raincoat runs into the craftsman, a resident with long arms and legs that are twisted backwards and stuck in a small wheelchair. The craftsman crafts dolls for his mistress from the bodies of kidnapped children trapped in the nest. We manage to evade him by sneaking into an elevator going down into a new area of the nest where the butler resides. The butler is tall and slender but hunched over with his hands cuffed behind his back. He has telekinetic powers that allow him to hover and do his chores around the nest. Raincoat sneaks past him and continues through the mansion. She does make it quite far before seeing him again in the laundry rooms. The only path is forward, so she must sneak past him. He almost catches her in the boiler room, but she escapes down a chute into the final area of the nest, the residence of the Pretender. The Pretender, mistress of the mansion, appears to be a young child. She is spoiled and often violent. The Pretender is obsessed with her dolls and dedicates entire rooms to staging tea parties and banquets. It appears that she does this because she is trying to pretend that she has company. Sneaking through this area, Raincoat sees the butler unloading boxes from the elevator. From one box, he pulls out the body-turned doll of the child with the red scarf. The butler places the child in a chair at the banquet table and leaves. Raincoat pulls the doll onto the floor to climb up to the chair and then the table and runs through the mansion, dodging the butler along the way. Near the entrance, Raincoat sees the Pretender has dragged the child with the red scarf out of the banquet hall. She scolds the doll and then drags the what used to be child out the front door, with Raincoat following not far behind. As Raincoat reaches the door, the butler appears and chases her through the garden. When she reaches the gate, Six is there, desperately trying to open it. They manage to open it together and continue running, helping each other along the way. However, they end up getting separated. Eventually, Raincoat reaches the shed, the same one from her dream in the beginning. She closes and blocks the door. This all seems very familiar to us. However, we now have a different perspective, which changes the story. We see that the person banging on the door is Six, now locked out with the butler not far behind. The banging on the door stops as Raincoat leaves the shed through a tunnel. After exiting, Raincoat hears someone crying. As she approaches the sounds, she sees the Pretender is sitting on a bench, crying over the broken doll of the child with the red scarf. Moving closer will alert the Pretender, who shrieks and chases Raincoat down the cliff face. Near the bottom, Six reappears, having somehow evaded the butler. Six and Raincoat continue to help each other along. When they near the cliff's edge, Six pushes a boulder onto the Pretender at the last second. Unfortunately, the Pretender recovers quickly and leaps forward, sending her and Raincoat plummeting over the cliff. They hit the water and go under. After a moment, the yellow Raincoat resurfaces, but we do not see the Pretender or the girl again. After the credits roll, a short scene shows Six climbing down the cliff towards what appears to be a raft. Presumably, she uses this raft to escape the nest once and for all. After an unknown amount of time, Six arrives in a forest where she is captured by the Hunter, a large humanoid wearing a burlap sack over his head. The prey he catches in the forest are added to his taxidermy collection, which leads us right into Little Nightmares 2. In the second Little Nightmares, we play as Mono, a short, skinny boy who wears a paper bag over his head. The game begins with Mono having a dream of a door with a large eye at the end of a long hallway. Mono wakes suddenly in the forest called the Wilderness next to an old television. Mono ventures further into the forest, dodging traps leading to the hunter's cabin. Mono sneaks inside the cabin where he hears an eerie melody. Following the sound to the basement, he finds Six locked in a room, playing a music box, and sets her free. Six initially runs from Mono, not trusting him. As he follows her through the cabin, they pass several taxidermied victims of the hunter. Catching up with Six, Mono sees her attempting to leave the cabin. Six decides she will have to trust Mono to escape, and working together, they find a key to unlock the door and head outside. The two try to sneak through the hunter's shed, but accidentally alert him. He chases after them, firing his shotgun at them while they run. Eventually, he loses track of them. Their freedom is short-lived, however, as the hunter spots them again near a different shed. Inside this shed, Mono finds a shotgun. The gun is much larger than Mono and Six, but together they manage to use it to defend themselves from the hunter as he breaks through the door. Afterwards, Mono and Six come to a body of water. Using an old door as a raft, they float away, leaving the wilderness behind. A few minutes later, they hit shore near the Pale City, a gloomy place consisting of looming, warped buildings. The city seems deserted, doors and windows boarded up, garbage and belongings are scattered through the streets. Entire city blocks are separated by wide fissures in the ground. Passing through several buildings, Mono finds a TV emitting a strange signal that hurts his head. Using some sort of power he has, Mono is able to tune the transmission and teleport through the TV into the hallway from his dream. Mono starts towards the door but is quickly pulled back through the TV by Six. Shortly after these events, they come across a school. The school appears to be empty at first, but while passing through the hallway, Mono gets trapped in a locker by some bullies. These are porcelain dolls that resemble children. They are loud, malicious, and destructive. While Mono is trapped in the locker, the bullies capture Six, dragging her to the upper floors of the school. To follow them, Mono has to steal a key from the teacher, a slim, elderly female monster. She can stretch her neck, bending and flexing it like a snake to easily catch the children that anger her. After freeing himself, Mono reaches the upper floor and is nearly caught by the teacher, but evades her and after smashing a few bullies, finds Six in the bathroom. Mono frees her once again. The two of them navigate through the school, avoiding the teacher and more bullies. After a while, they reach a room with one lone bully. Six sneaks up behind this bully and smashes its head violently against the floor. They leave the school, and with rain pouring constantly outside, Six becomes cold, so they find shelter. Here, Six finds her yellow raincoat, which she wears from now on. This raincoat reminds her of the friend she lost at the nest. It appears to remind her of the trauma the two suffered and has some sentimental value for her. As the kids continue on their quest, they reach the hospital and must sneak through it. It is here at the hospital Mono makes another attempt at the hallway through the TV, but once again, Six pulls him back. Continuing on, they eventually see the doctor, a bloated, wrinkly creature that crawls along the ceiling. The twisted doctor stitches organic and porcelain body parts together, creating his patients. The doctor chases Mono and Six through the hospital. They lead him into the incinerator, trapping him inside. Mono can choose to either leave the doctor alive or turn on the incinerator. Leaving the doctor alive has no effect. However, if Mono turns on the incinerator, the doctor will burn, and Six will sit down to warm her hands by the fire. Leaving the hospital, the kids see a tower in the distance at the center of the city. It is the only building not warped or distorted. They find many of the city's residents, known as viewers, who all seem to be addicted to the broadcast from the televisions, some even going as far as jumping to their death while trying to reach a TV screen. The viewers will also become violent and attack anyone nearby if they lose their source of entertainment. Using this TV addiction to their advantage, Six and Mono move through quite a few of the buildings before finding another TV that Mono can tune. This time Mono is able to reach the hallway door and open it. On the other side, sitting in a chair, is the Thin Man, aptly named for his tall, thin body. He wears a black suit and hat. He stands slowly as Six pulls Mono out of the TV. The Thin Man's silhouette appears as he follows Mono. Six begins to panic and tries to pull Mono away from the TV. She is terrified and runs as the Thin Man crawls through the TV. Mono chases after Six and finds a very good hiding spot beneath a bed. Six decides to crouch beneath a table and is caught by the Thin Man, leaving behind a glitching Shadow Six. Mono sets off to rescue his friend, going back into the TV. But instead of the hallway, he travels through a fleshy tunnel, falling out of a different TV. Mono continues to travel through the TVs, getting closer to the tower each time. He must avoid the angry viewers along the way. Eventually, Mono will reach an apartment and find Six trying to escape through a TV. But before Six can escape, the Thin Man pulls her back and then comes after Mono, forcing Mono to run away. As Mono keeps running, the Thin Man is not far behind, ultimately ending up on a train. Mono makes it to the last car, detaching it and riding away from the Thin Man just in time. The train car crashes, leaving Mono hurt and limping. The glitching Six leads Mono on toward the tower, but the Thin Man appears again. Too injured to run, Mono removes his paper bag and crouches down. As the Thin Man comes closer and closer, Mono raises his hand. Realizing once again that he has powers, he is able to repel the Thin Man. After beating him back several times, the Thin Man dissolves, leaving nothing behind. Realizing more of his potential powers, Mono moves the tower closer to him instead of walking. Inside, the tower is lit by an eerie magenta glow. Stairways and rooms are disorienting, and objects float in the air. Mono follows the familiar melody from Six's music box until he finds her, only she is different. She has been distorted by the tower. She is now huge with long twisted limbs. She isn't hostile at first, but Mono decides the only way to free her is to destroy the music box, her only source of comfort. Mono whacks the box with a mallet, angering Six, who now attacks him. After dodging her attacks and hitting a box a few more times, Six does return to her normal size. Immediately, the walls of the tower transform into flesh and giant eyes chase after them. They run across a narrow bridge as it falls apart. Six catches Mono by the hand before he falls. She stares down at him for a moment, contemplating, and then she lets go. She watches him fall before leaving the tower through a screen. Mono falls and eventually lands on a floor made out of flesh. He wanders around until he finds a chair on a mound. Mono does not look for a way out. He climbs on the chair as walls close around him. Just as the flesh is about to reach him, it transforms back into the tower. Mono sits and waits. Time passes as he grows and changes. The tower is slowly corrupting him. Finally, when he looks the same as the Thin Man, it zooms out, showing the hallway from his dreams as the door closes, leaving Mono inside the tower. In a secret ending, we can see Six once more, falling out of a TV. As she lays on the floor, a shadow version of herself appears and sees a poster on the ground showing the Maw, the location where Little Nightmares 1 takes place. The darker version of Six fades away as Six's stomach growls with a deep hunger. Sometime later, Six arrives at the Maw and somehow gets trapped deep within, which is where the first game begins. Although it was the first game released, Little Nightmares is the last game chronologically. As the game begins, we see Six gasp awake from a nightmare of a tall masked woman slowly turning to look at her. Six had been resting in a large suitcase, but now continues her escape from the Maw, a submerged ship-like structure that moves through the water, with only its funnel breaking the surface. Six goes through the prison where children are kept, catching a glimpse of the janitor, a hunched figure with extremely long arms, a large head, and skin sagging over his eyes. As Six leaves the prison, she is struck with hunger, barely able to move. Luckily, nearby through some bars is a boy who decides to help and throws her some bread. Six eats and then continues on. Six makes it quite far before being struck with hunger again. She finds a small cage with a hunk of meat inside. Six is so desperate for food, she walks into the trap. As she is eating, the long arms of the janitor close around the cage. Six is taken to a room with several other caged children, one of whom is the Runaway Kid, the protagonist of the first DLC. For the time being, we will follow the Runaway Kid's story before coming back to the story of Six. Secrets of the Maw is the DLC for Little Nightmares. It begins with the Runaway Kid attempting to escape, but was caught. The janitor drags his cage from the room we last saw Six. The janitor wraps him in a cloth bag to send him to the kitchen. The kid wiggles free and falls to the ground. In this area, the kid recruits gnomes to help him get the furnace running so he can ride the coal lift higher into the Maw. After fueling the furnace and riding the lift, the gnomes lead the kid into their hideaway. When the light shines on the gnomes, their shadows show that they were once children who were trapped in the Maw just like him. As the Runaway Kid leaves the hideaway, he steps onto an elevator. Riding inside the elevator below the kid is the lady, a tall, slender woman with a mask covering her face. As the elevator moves upward, the lady looks up, as if sensing the kid's presence, before everything goes black. The kid awakens, still on top of the elevator, and explores this new place. He sneaks past the lady to find a way out. The runaway has to find 3 statues to open the way forward. After placing 2 of these statues, the lights go out, and he has to fight off some shadow kids using his flashlight to vaporize them. When the 3rd statue is in place, the kid can keep going. Progressing into the next room, the kid accidentally sees the lady looking into the mirror without her mask. This reveals her true face. She sees him in the reflection and screams in rage, breaking the mirror behind her. The lady chases down the kid and uses her shadow powers to catch him. Black smoke envelops him as he blacks out. The kid wakes up transformed into a gnome. Now knowing the lady is responsible for turning the other children into gnomes as well. He finds a small room with a few other gnomes and a sausage on the floor. This is where he stays until the end of the DLC. With the runaway story seemingly over, now we go back to finish the story of Six. She wakes up in her cage right as the kid is being dragged away by the janitor. She is able to break out of the cage and wanders the janitor's lair looking for a way out. Six is nearly caught several times, but always manages to avoid the janitor. She's able to avoid him until she comes to a room with a watertight door. Six uses this door to sever his arms and then leaves his lair behind, heading towards the kitchen. Six's hunger strikes again, and all she is able to find to eat is a rat. Now inside the kitchen, Six must avoid the twin chefs, two obese humanoid monsters with a love of violence and cooking. Six sneaks into the dishwashing room where both chefs are present. She climbs a stack of dishes to reach the conveyor leaving the kitchens. The chefs see her and try to prevent her leaving. She makes it just in time. She is able to see the outside of the maw. As Six climbs a ladder, the guests arrive, boarding the maw from a ship. The guests are stumpy, fat creatures that seem mindless. They are ravenous gluttons here to eat, and after they have eaten, the lady drains their life force, using them to power the maw. Six glimpses the lady as she enters the guest area. Sneaking past the guests is difficult, and the only path through puts her in the guest's line of sight. They become relentless once they see her. She barely makes it, and shortly after escaping the guest area, Six's hunger returns. She eventually comes to the room where the kid gnome waits and offers her the sausage. It seems she is reaching for the sausage. However, she devours the gnome instead, causing the other gnomes to flee in terror. Leaving the kid on the floor, Six continues on, seeing the lady ride up the elevator. She follows quickly after. Now in the lady's residence, Six must find a way to defeat her. She finds a small, unbroken mirror and learns that light reflecting off it harms the lady. The lady attacks again and again, but Six is able to fend her off. After a few minutes, the lady is defeated and lies weakened on the ground. The hunger that has plagued Six comes back once again. She approaches the lady and bites her on the neck, ending her once and for all. Six stands, darkness swirling around her as the lady's power becomes her own. She returns to the guest area, walking slowly through, draining the life force out of any guest that attempts to reach for her. Six walks up the staircase toward the daylight without looking back. On the deck of the maw, she sits patiently, waiting as the ship's horn blows in the distance.